Welcome to InterPartyConflict, the podcast where we answer your questions so you can have the best tabletop gaming experience possible. My name is Gabe.
And my name is Jeff.
And we're going to answer your questions today.
Mm-hmm.
But first, Jeff, I have a question for you.
Uh-huh.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. I've actually spent the last 2 days playing Skyrim VR.
Good job.
My VR headset, like the gasket that goes on your face that came with it, puts a lot of pressure on my forehead.
Yeah.
So I've since removed that and kind of like I've kind of Frankensteined some stuff onto it.
Okay.
It looks terrible. There's masking tape everywhere. But the problem is now it sits on the bridge of my nose really.
Yeah, I wasn't going to say anything, but it does look like you have a bruise on the bridge of your nose.
Well, because like when I first was doing it, like I was playing it for a few hours and like it was hurting real bad, but I was just like, but I want to play this game. And then I took the thing out. I'm like, oh my God. I think I'm going to get a blister there. I've since added some padding, so it's not so bad anymore. Sure. But like that first time I was trying it, but I'd rather have a sore nose than like the pressure it was putting on like my forehead. It was giving me like a sinus headache sort of thing. Or like, it wasn't great.
I mentioned Neverwinter Nights a couple episodes ago. I don't think I ever followed up on that. I just want to say that for anybody who was curious as to how good Neverwinter Nights is on the Switch, I was a little bit apprehensive at first. It seemed like there were some issues that were going to be problems. And although I will still say it is a sloppy port, pretty much every problem that I've come across, there has been in-game, there has been a simple fix for.
Sure.
It's usually just been an option I didn't know to check a box on, or a button I didn't think to press, or whatever. I haven't really played any characters that are very like hotbar intensive, because I know if you're a spellcaster, you need a lot of different spells and such. I'm playing a fighter so far, but so far, I mean, it's been pretty good. Like, again, every problem I've encountered, there's been a solution for. So I'm maybe a quarter of the way through. I'm about at the end of the first chapter.
Sure.
But it's a really good game so far. It's Neverwinter Nights, which is a great game to start off with. And then there's all these like extra modules you can download. Like you can't make your own modules, but you can still, I guess there is cross-play with PC. So if someone is a PC player, they can make a module and then be the dungeon master for it. Unless I'm mistaken, they can run a homemade module and then players on Switches can play through it. That is my understanding. I could be wrong, but I've heard that's what it sounds like is the case.
I could see that. I could see that working pretty well. But Neverwinter Nights is another one of those where it's like it's a pretty solid game. Yeah. Like it's a lot of fun.
But enough about games for now, at least. This is our last episode of the year.
Oh yeah.
So the day this goes out, it should be the New Year's Eve, I believe.
Yeah.
And
isn't this number 150?
This is number 150.
Yeah.
This is Mewtwo right here.
This is Mewtwo. This is the Mewtwo of episodes.
So this is the end of our third year. I think it's been a crazy year. The last year has flown by.
Yeah, it really has. I'm not super complaining about it, but I like,
because like I just got a smartphone a year ago, and I feel like I've only had it for a few months, but it's been a whole year.
That's actually the side effect of owning a smartphone. We didn't tell you, but like time does just go whoosh, like that's why this year it felt like it went by faster, because it actually did, because you have a smartphone.
Okay, well there you go.
That's the T in smart is time.
So what does the SMARTPHONE stand for?
That's for you to find out.
Okay.
In time.
So this is a quote unquote normal episode of our podcast, but is a little bit different than usual. It's kind of like what we did last year. Oh yeah. We're using this episode to kind of get rid of a bunch of submissions that we have been hanging on to for a very long time, and or just don't have good responses to.
Right. Yeah.
So we've got a Dragon's Hoard item that I probably wouldn't have used for a very long time if not for this episode. We've got some questions that we don't really have great answers to.
Sure.
We've got a funeral pyre story that I've had for so long. I lost who submitted it and where.
Right.
So
and when we get to it, we will prompt if anybody if anybody knows that this is their story, let us know and all that. But
so yeah. I don't mean to say that this isn't going to be a fun episode.
Right.
I think this is going to be a very fun episode.
Yeah,
but just
this isn't like a bottom of the barrel garbage content sort of thing. Like we appreciate all things that have been
absolutely and
submitted.
And no, this is saying nothing about the quality of the stuff that has been submitted. It's just stuff that we've been putting off for a long time.
Right.
So
yeah, it's either our ability to answer it or our preparations and stuff. So.
Yeah. So on that note, Jeff, do you want to go ahead and get into this episode?
Yeah, that sounds good.
All right. So Jeff, actually, sorry. Gabe and Jeff. This is a Dragon's Hoard intro submitted by TB via email way back in February. TB says Gabe and Jeff. So this is both of us.
Okay.
This isn't just you.
All right.
We both get to go to wherever this is going to be sending us.
Oh, okay.
So we find ourselves in the warm tropical climes of Hawaii.
Ooh.
You're enjoying a respite from the cold Michigan winter.
Yep.
The fine toasty sands are beneath your feet, and you dig your toes in as you watch wave after wave gently glide in from your covered beach chair. First-time surfers are tumbling into the water, overseas tourists are burning themselves to a crisp, and the theme to Magnum P.I. or Hawaii Five-0, I'll see which ones I can find and put in the background.
Sure.
They run through your minds. You feel a tap on your shoulder. It must be the Cabana Boys bringing your neon sugary drinks, you think. But as you each look over, a menehune, Hawaii's version of a naughty gnome, beckons you both to come with him, a gleam in his eye. He leads you in between hotel beach walks and then helps you into a canoe on the canal. Your combined weight causes him to row with greater exertion, but within half an hour, you're in the lush, tropical slopes of a dormant volcano.
Ooh.
The menehune waves you on through a very narrow path until you arrive in a hidden opening. A large waterfall drops into a serene pool. Around the pool are lounging a number of mo'o, Hawaiian lizard folk. They look at you with a temporary curiosity before returning to their full-on lounging. The menehune dives into the pool, and when he resurfaces, he asks you to join. You swim with your guide under the water and through the thunder of the waterfall. When you emerge, you see Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson sitting atop a large pile of gold and treasure. He gives you the look, and with a crackle in the air, he morphs into what we all know his true form to be, an adult red dragon.
Right.
He snarls like he's going to eat you, but then he smiles and says, "Aloha, friends. Welcome to the Dragon's Hoard."
Wow.
Yep. Wonder why I was hanging on to that.
Right.
February.
I like it.
All right. Today's magic item was submitted by Nathan H. via email. And, a small explanation. This one is very long, which is why we haven't used it. It's very long. Well, I think we'll be able to make it a little quicker. But
sure.
But anyway, so this item, the Heartstone Staff, Nathan said was heavily influenced by the Infinity Gauntlet from Marvel. Probably most likely the movies and such, but I'm sure also it's from the comics. So this item is a legendary artifact. It requires attunement by a sorcerer, warlock, or wizard of 15th level or higher. So you got to be an arcane caster.
Yep.
The Heartstone Staff is a legendary staff capable of immense power. The staff looks to be made entirely out of 6 intertwined precious metals, some of which glow with a light from within. These colors glow only once activated at a Heartstone temple. There are 6 such temples across the planes of existence, each of which is linked to one precious mineral. Once activated in the Heartstone Temple, the staff's wielder can use the powers listed under the relevant mineral. The staff is linked to a collar that pulses with colored gems, one to match each color in the staff. Minerals in the staff that are not activated simply look dull and do not shine. When someone who is not attuned to the staff tries to pick it up, they must immediately make a DC 18 Wisdom saving throw, taking 22 or 4d10 force damage, flying 15 feet away from the staff and falling prone on a failed save. On a successful save, they take half damage but are unable to lift the staff. As a bonus action, the staff's attuned wielder can summon the staff to their hand. The staff's attuned wielder can use it to make a melee attack. This attack is made using the wielder's normal melee weapon attack modifier +2. It also deals 2d8 +2 force damage on a hit. The Hearthstone staff has 50 charges and regains 5d10 +5 expended charges each day at dawn. Any application of the staff that requires 15 charges can only be used once per day. The staff's active gems determine the powers that it is capable of. All saves are DC 18. Attacks with the staff are made at the wielder's spellcasting modifier +2. The staff can maintain up to 5 concentration effects at a time. So just from that bit so far, before we even get into what it actually does, this is a pretty hefty staff.
Right.
So this has 6 different kind of lists of spells that it can do, and that's where the bulk of what it does, in here. But there is some cool flavor in here too, which is why I think it's still worth covering.
Yeah.
The first of the stones of the materials of the staff, as well as like the gems on the, I think there was like a necklace or a collar. The first one is the Ruby Heartstone. The Ruby Heartstone exercises the power over souls and spirits. The Ruby Heartstone is located in a palace of bones and coagulated blood in the Shadowfell. Now, in the text here, it says when you defeat the Ruby Heartstone. I think that might be a typo. I think it might just be when you obtain the Ruby Heartstone.
Or maybe there was something in his specific campaign that where he had to fight something to get it.
Maybe. I was just thinking what if you did have to fight the temple or some sort of a manifestation of the temple?
Yeah.
Whatever the case, I guess I'll just leave it as defeat. But I don't know if anybody is going to use this in their own games.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Do whatever you think is
right.
appropriate.
Use at your own risk something this powerful. Really.
Right. So when you defeat the Ruby Heartstone, the Heartstone staff gains the following abilities, and I guess each of these has 2 cantrips that don't cost any charges, and then has a bunch of spells that do.
Cool.
So the 2 cantrips for the Ruby Heartstone are Thaumaturgy and Toll the Dead.
Nice.
And we of course are not going to go and say what each of these spells does.
Right, yeah.
They're all, I imagine most of them are in the player's handbook. If not the player's handbook, then one of the other 5th edition books that's out. So Thaumaturgy and Toll the Dead are cantrips, no charges expended. And then the spells that it can cast are a spiritual weapon cast at 3rd level, takes 4 charges. Spirit Guardians, 4 charges. Summon Lesser Demons, 4 charges. Create Undead, 5 charges. True Sight, 6 charges. Finger of Death, 8 charges. Summon Greater Demon, 8 charges. And Power Word Kill, 15 charges. So, like it said, it's all about summoning spirits and controlling dead or killing or that sort of stuff.
So I would imagine this is kind of like the Soul Stone.
Sounds like it.
Or is it? I'm trying to remember the comic book equivalents because they
are different in the comic books.
Yeah, they're referred to as gems.
Yeah,
not stones.
The next one is the Citrine Heartstone. The Citrine Heartstone can channel powerful evocation magic. Located in a temple in the plane of Pandemonium. When you defeat the Citrine Heartstone, the Heartstone staff gains the following abilities: cantrips. What?
Sorry, I'm laughing because our local game store is called Pandemonium.
You just gotta go inside the store.
Right, you go to the store and you gotta order it special.
You gotta defeat the guy behind the counter.
Right.
So the cantrips here are Eldritch Blast, which shoots 3 beams of 1d10 each.
Nice.
And Thunderclap, which deals 3d6. So I guess they are leveled up a bit. What? Oh, thanks, Jeff. And then the spells are Chromatic Orb, 1 charge. Flaming Sphere, 2 charges. Shatter, cast as 3rd level, 3 charges. Call Lightning, 4 charges. Wall of Stone, 5 charges. Lightning Bolt, cast at 5th level, 6 charges. Delayed Blast Fireball, 8 charges. Earthquake, 12. Tsunami, 12. And Meteor Swarm, 15. Ooh. So just a reminder, the 15 charge abilities can only be used once per day.
Right, yeah.
Next up is the Gold Heartstone. With the Gold Heartstone, one can heal even the most grievous of injuries. It resides in a hidden conclave in Arborea. When you defeat the Gold Heartstone, the Heartstone staff gains the following abilities: The cantrips are Resistance, cast as a bonus action. That's pretty good. And Spare the Dying, cast as a bonus action.
Nice.
And the spells are Healing Word, 1 charge. Cure Wounds, cast at 3rd level, 3 charges. Heroism, cast at 3rd level, 4 charges. Revivify, 4. Stone Skin, 5. Mass Healing Word, cast at 5th level, 7 charges. Resurrection, 10. Mass Heal, 15. And True Resurrection, 15. So each of those, Mass Heal and True Resurrection, once per day. Man, shoot. True Resurrection once per day.
I mean, yeah, that's...
Some heavy duty stuff.
Right. That's really... I mean, you could just start bringing back any old person. You're like, hey, there was that one guy we killed. Let's bring him back.
If I recall, True Resurrection, you can bring someone back that's been dead like a century or something.
I don't know.
Anyway, Emerald Heartstone is the next one. The Emerald Heartstone grants its wielder the ability to create illusions and summon creatures. Located deep in the jungles of the Feywild, defeating the Emerald Heartstone grants the Heartstone staff the following abilities. The cantrips are Minor Illusion and Prestidigitation.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing special. I feel like those should have gotten some cool little buff too, but oh well. And the spells: Unseen Servant, 1 charge. Blindness, Deafness, 1. Silent Image, 2. See Invisibility, 2. Conjure Animals, 4. Gaseous Form, 2. Hunger of Hadar, 4. Mirror Image, 4. Enemies Abound, 5. Conjure Minor Elementals, 6. Conjure Woodland Beings, 6. Control Water, 6. Counterspell cast at 6th level, 6 charges. And Storm of Vengeance, 15 charges. Storm of Vengeance. So that's a hefty spell right there.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember what that one
It
is.
over like a mile or something like that, you create like rain, hail, lightning, call lightning every round.
Oh, jeez.
All sorts of crazy stuff for like a good duration. Anyway, it's not just what the spell does, but it's the massive area it affects.
Sure.
You cast that on an army, that army's done.
Okay.
It's great.
Cool. Yeah.
Next up is the Sapphire Heartstone. The Sapphire Heartstone exercises the power to travel through extra-dimensional space. Found in the Astral Sea, defeating the Sapphire Heartstone grants the Heartstone staff the following abilities. The cantrips are Dancing Lights and Gust. And then the spells are Long Strider, 1 charge. Misty Step, 1. Dimensional Vortex, 2. Blur, 3. Haste, 4. Thunderstep, 4. Wormhole, 4. Blink, 5. Plane Shift, 8. And Teleport, 10. There aren't any 15 charge abilities on here. I wonder if maybe there could have been like a gate or something. That's probably what I would have done.
Yeah.
I don't know. And then the last one is the Amethyst Heartstone. Debatably the most powerful of the Heartstones, the Amethyst Heartstone is capable of dominating a person's mind and subjugating it to the Amethyst's will. It is located in limbo in a constantly shifting palace that has been constructed through force of will. Defeating the Amethyst Heartstone grants the Heartstone staff the following abilities. The cantrips are Friends and Message. And then the spells are Command, 1 charge. Crown of Madness, 1. Suggestion, 2. Dominate Beast, 3. Dominate Person, 6. And Maddening Darkness, 9. And Wish, 15. So similar to True Resurrection once per day, Wish once per day.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Right.
So that's all the text.
Sure.
I actually thought it would take a bit longer to get through all of those, but that's a lot of stuff.
Right. And I mean, the idea is that this is a very powerful thing, and the person who submitted was like, this is more just sort of like a plot tool, sort of thing. But even if you wanted to like have this available to your players, like they would have to go on a big quest to find each piece, and there are a few ways to kind of like tweak the power a bit, like make things more charges if you think that spell's a little bit too powerful or something like that, or limit the number of charges that come back per day. One thing I can think of is like the 15 charge things aren't even available until you have all of them.
That's a good idea.
At the very least, the Wish one,
The Wish and True Resurrection.
And True Resurrection, sure. Yeah, like so make it so like there are really powerful things that you could potentially use once per day, but only have that available once you have all of the the pieces.
I could see that, because one of my suggestions was going to be have there be things that happen when you have multiples. Because I mean, in Avengers, for example, which is a important thing to compare, is that when Thanos gets more of them, it's not just, he can do these two things. He kind of like combines them a bit.
I do like in the movies now, like he had like two of them for like the majority of
the movie,
of Infinity War. And but like when he would use it, like depending on what he was doing, one or both of them would light up.
Yeah.
So like when he was like, he's teleporting, it would just be the blue one would go, because that was the space stone. That was and then like when he freaking pulled down the moon, I think both lit up, because it's like the power stone, augmented the space stone, which helped move a massive, object out of orbit.
And then like I think when Doctor Strange did his thing where there were like 100 of him or whatever, like all like grabbing Thanos, I think there was like the soul stone lit up so that he could tell which one was the real one, I think. Somebody analyzed, he like did that, and then I think he used like the space stone to actually grab him or something.
Right, and then or he like used a power stone to like absorb a bunch of like fire or something.
I think so.
And then he like shot it back at like at Iron Man or something. So anyway.
Yeah.
So like
I could go on for so long about this.
So or shorten the list of each one, but then like if you had like, two of them, it would unlock more. Three of them, it would unlock more for each list.
Sure.
Or maybe have like, I like the idea of different combinations of them, like give you access to different things.
Yeah,
I don't know. Depending on
a lot more work, I think, would have to go into a much more complex chart.
Yeah.
I think would be required, which might not be the best option, but if you feel like getting into that in depth with it.
There's like, if you really want to go off of the source material of Avengers and like the comics and stuff like that, there are instances of the gems of power being used, in combination with each other. Because a lot of times it's just like somebody's got one of them and that's enough to do a lot of damage.
Yeah.
But like there'll be a few times where somebody's got like two of them and then they're able to do something wacky, because like, so if you have the power one, basically if you have any of the other ones and the power one just makes that other one really more powerful, because you're basically like you're fueling the other one.
So yeah, I mean this is a fairly wordy item. There is a lot of text to it, but I like the idea of it. I like this whole thing, like the Infinity Gauntlet, all that.
Yeah.
I've even started using in my library games for the last over 6 months. I've been kind of implementing an Infinity Gauntlet type thing myself, and I can say this now because we just got to the point where I just revealed it to the players. In the first, I sort of started kind of a new quote-unquote campaign. I had like the players make their own characters, and then those are the characters we've been going with since then. They encountered a dying phoenix, and instead of being reborn, it just died. And then they found that inside its chest was this like fist-sized stone that was like very, very, had like tons of energy in it. And it would catch things on fire. It would like electrocute things if they touched it, so on and so on. They didn't really know what to do with it, so they've just kind of been carrying it around for a long time. They were going to take it to this one archmage guy to identify, but then he turned out to be a bad guy. And he's actually been watching them through the use of divination magic since then. And then a few sessions ago, I had them encounter there were a bunch of undead attacking this city, so they found the source of the undead, and it was another fist-sized stone. The first one was in the shape of a heart. This one's in the shape of a skull. And this one was kind of creating all of this necromantic energy.
Yeah.
Well, I just had them find like this ancient shrine that explains that these were originally sort of like batteries of the different schools of magic. So that there were 8 of these things, and it was supposed to be that if the world ever started running out of that particular school of magic, the battery would be there to power the world and get all of it jump-started again. Well, people started, I think at some point, they weren't stolen. It was that the world did start running out of those, and so people took them to other places to recharge them or something like that. And so like the Phoenix took on the evocation stone to like give it some of its, so it was like sapping power from the Phoenix.
Sure.
This like group of liches took the necromancy stone so that they could like channel their necromantic energy into it and so on.
So like the batteries needed to recharge.
Exactly. The batteries need to recharge. And the bad guy that has been watching them stole the divination stone, and that's what he's been using to watch them and, so know everything that's going on and so on and so on.
Is it shaped like an eyeball?
Yes. It's I don't know about an eyeball. It was an eye shape.
Sure.
I don't think I was that specific. But sure. But yeah, I kind of had to sit down and be like, well, what would each of the schools of magic look like? One of them's like a foot, one's an ear, one's a hand.
Well, I like the evocation being a heart because healing magic is evocation, right?
Cure wounds is evocation. Raise dead is necromancy.
Okay, but cure wounds, like it's just energy. It's like that makes sense to me though.
Yeah. So anyway, my point is that I like the idea of very, very powerful magic items, all that kind of fit a specific theme and such. I've talked about that in the past and such. So I really like this. I think it's a cool item, and yeah, it's there's a lot to it, but I think it's cool, and it would be cool to gather over the course of a campaign.
Yeah. It's just that thing where like, you gathering the 7 Dragon Balls or like the Chaos Emeralds for Sonic or like the Infinity Stones. It's like it feels like a trope thing.
Yeah.
But like I like that kind of stuff in games where
sure.
cuz it gives you like you can go on so many different quests, to like you have to go out and find all the pieces of the Triforce or whatever, It's always about going and collecting a thing, and like when I don't know, it feels right, whenever it's in a game, and I know it's like, oh, we're doing this again, we got to go, like it's a fetch quest. It's like, yeah, but it's fun. Like, there's a reason that people keep doing it, because people keep playing them. Yeah, there's always like a theme to it. It's like, oh yeah, we got to do the green stone, and obviously that's going to be in the Feywild. Like, yeah, that sounds awesome. I want that. Yeah. Like, I want to go to there. Yeah. So yeah, cool. Thank you very much, Nathan H, for submitting the Hearthstone staff. Jeff, if anybody wanted to submit their own Dragon's Hoard items, so that we can discuss them in the future, if they want to submit questions for us to discuss, or stories for the funeral pyre, or the retirement plan. Retirement plan or retirement? I feel like retirement village fits better because village. Sure. Fantasy. Okay, so I'm putting my foot down. Retirement village. If you for the upcoming retirement village segments. Yeah. How could they submit those to us? They can send us an email at InterPartyConflict@gmail.com or join us on our Interparty Discord at bit.ly/InterPartyDiscord. That's correct. And I want to thank all of our wonderful patrons for helping make the show happen. Patreon is an online platform where you can pledge to donate a certain amount of money per month to the creator of your choice, in this case, us. If you go to patreon.com/InterPartyConflict, we have a few different tiers on there. We've got outtakes, we've got fantasy fiction that I've written, we've got a monthly bonus podcast, we've got a monthly Roll20 game, and so on. So we've got some cool stuff on there. Check it out and see if any of the stuff appeals to you. If so, you can go to patreon.com/InterPartyConflict. You can help donate to the show and make the show better. And of course, thank you to all of our wonderful patrons who have supported us over the last 2 years, because we started this about 2 years ago. Yeah, whoa. Yeah, dang. Crazy. Yeah, thanks for everybody for listening. Yes, and absolutely. With us. Thanks especially to the people who have stuck with us the whole time, but even the people who have just donated for a short amount of time, we still really appreciate it. Everything that people have donated has been very, very helpful. Yes. Yeah. So thank you. And then just one more thing, check out the other podcasts on the Crit Nation Fellowship. Check out Crit Academy at critacademy.com. Justin, Ian, and Brandon create new and reusable content for players and DMs alike. They just recently did coverage of the Artificer from the Eberron book that just came out. So I think they covered over 2 episodes. Nice. So, yeah, cool. I mean, there's some good stuff in that class. I think they did a really good job with it. Yeah. And then also check out Brute Force and Ignorance. They are an actual play podcast on the network. They've been a part of the network for, I think, just about a year. So
Good on them.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, glad to have them as a part of us. And then also check out the D&D Character Lab. They are no longer making episodes, but they're episodes that are still out there. Garen and Dan made characters every week and then pitted them against each other to debate whose characters were better. So enough of that. Let's get into some of these wonderful questions that we've been holding on to for quite a while in some cases.
Okay, our first question comes from Collins on Discord. Have you ever played a campaign that incorporated a metaverse? For example, the characters in the Forgotten Realms, but Forgotten Realms are themselves part of a comic book, which has its own story and characters. Okay, so this is like, what does this make me think of? Well, in the show Heroes, remember Heroes?
Yeah.
Well, there was like a comic book that like some of the characters would be looking at, and it would like, I think it was supposed to be like the future seeing guy, artist guy was the artist for the comic books or something like that.
Something like that.
There's also, gosh, I'm trying to like there are some examples like this where it's like there's comic books like there is like a comic book or a television show or something within a show, within a series or something that's like. That is a different show.
Yeah, no, I know what you're talking about. The reason, this actually, we haven't even had this one for very long, but I can tell you right now that I don't have a very good answer for it.
I mean, I was thinking of like, because when I first read this, I misread it as multiverse, not metaverse, and I feel like we've talked about it before where it's like you could bring in, like, you could have people from like characters from Eberron coming into the Forgotten Realms.
We did talk about that. Yeah, that's it's slightly different. Like this isn't the same thing as that.
Yeah.
This actually did get brought up on our last episode. Oh, and sorry, I forgot to say thank you to Dave, who was on.
Oh yeah, thanks a lot.
Was on our episode last week. Dave he wanted to discuss this one. We didn't have time for it.
Sure.
And he sort of touched on this in one of the questions that we did discuss.
Yeah.
In that he was doing a kind of a Final Fantasy campaign where it was sort of if you were to like step out of that world, it is part of the Final Fantasy universe or whatever, or metaverse rather. This is a hard, the answer to the question is no, I've never played a campaign like this because the idea behind it is kind of confusing.
Right.
And it's hard to like what is the difference between this and a multiverse? I mean, I kind of in every campaign I run, it is tangentially related to the multiverse of all of the other games that I've run. I sort of in my head, if you could travel the planes, you could go from Faerun to Eberron to Galarian.
Oh.
So or Greyhawk and so on and so on. So I mean in my mind, all of my campaigns have that.
Yeah.
But my understanding is that this is asking about something different. So I don't really have any experience with a metaverse.
Yeah. I guess, me neither.
I mean, I can make references to various other media that have done similar things.
Sure.
I think there was a video game, Alan Wake. The video game Alan Wake I've played a little bit of. There's like a TV show in the game that I think one of the other Alan Wake games takes place in. Or something. Or the character of Alan Wake is a writer, and I think one of the other games takes place in one of his books.
Okay.
So, I mean, that's kind of a neat idea. That would be a neat idea to play in a role-playing game if your characters find out that you are characters in a book. That would be really cool. But I've never played a campaign like that.
Yeah. All right. Well, our next question comes from the Beverage Tea on Discord. Would you play any of the character options from the Ravnica book in other published D&D settings? And if so, which setting would be the best suited for Ravnica-themed characters? Neither Gabe and I have seen the Ravnica book.
Yeah, I've heard plenty about them. I've listened to several podcasts. D&D Character Lab had an episode or two where they made Ravnica characters. Crit Academy covered Ravnica, the character options and such. I mean, it sounds great. Just I've never played it. I haven't bought the book. I don't see myself buying the book anytime soon.
Yeah, I know they've added a few playable races in there because I think there's like I'm trying to remember their actual names, but there's like an elephant person.
Sure.
And I think they threw in minotaurs and things like that. Just all stuff that you see like in Magic the Gathering. Like there's a bunch of different, like there's like the creature types.
Yeah.
And so like there's a lot of reference to that. But like I know because Ravnica is the one where with all the guilds.
Yeah.
And so like I know the Golgari guild I think is the one is black green, because black, green, and white are the colors I play the most in Magic. Yeah, so like I know the Golgari. I can't quite remember. I know the Simic, which is blue and green.
Yeah,
and they're kind of like all about like because like blue is very magic focused, like is more like arcane focused. Okay, we'll say, and then like green is more like a nature sort of thing. So they kind of like you kind of put those two together, you get more like a kind of like a morphling, like or like a. I think they try to like create. They try to like make. Oh, I'm trying to think of like they're into like these like vats or something like that where they kind of like morph themselves into other things. It's weird. And then like the Golgari are about like life and death, I think, because you have like nature and death. So yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff in like the whole like Magic the Gathering, the Planeswalker stuff. Sure. Ravnica is probably one of the more fleshed out ones because it involves the different guilds and stuff. As far as like the setting that work really well in, I don't know.
I mean, just what I have seen, like Eberron seems like it's kind of pulpy and kind of steampunky. Kind of sounds like some of it might fit in there.
Right. You could tie in like the guilds with the houses. Yeah. Like the different houses in Eberron. Yeah, you can kind of make some, kind of draw some similarities there. So if you wanted to like run the options from Ravnica in a non-Ravnica setting, sure, you could find a way for it to fit in there, I think. Okay. Yeah. So I mean, yeah. Again, this isn't something we've really seen much info on. So
yeah, and at this point, I doubt we're gonna suddenly get into Ravnica. So right. So
I mean, like I've like because I have the app that lets me like create characters and stuff, and it has the options for the races. Sure. And I'm like, wait, what? Elephant people? What the like, or like Minotaur? But the Minotaur racial stuff is based on like Minotaur lore from Ravnica. So it's like, I see. They're good at sailing or something. I'm like, what? Yeah. Wait, Minotaurs. What are they doing on boats inside their
everybody
mazes?
Knows they're immune to mazes.
They're immune to mazes. Oh, immunity to mazes is one of my favorite new things. Yeah. So yeah, that's I mean, Magic the Gathering is really fun.
Yeah, I mean, like I'm sure Ravnica is great. I just don't have the time to especially if I don't even have a dedicated game at the moment. I just don't have the time to learn everything about it and so on.
Our next question is also from the Beverage Tea on Discord. How common is it for a DM to reduce time doing other hobbies, not because they are preparing for a session, but because they fear the opportunity cost of not devoting that time to prepare for a session?
Yeah. So this is a bit of a kind of a confusing question, but it's basically like, how often do you sit there knowing that you should be preparing for a session, but you aren't, but you're not doing other things because you know that you should be preparing for the session. So instead you just sit there and you stare at the wall and stress over.
That feels like my life in everything.
Well, I mean, yeah, absolutely. Like, it's like I do this all the time.
Well, it's like when I have something to do, when I need to be doing, but I want to be doing something else. Yeah. I end up doing neither of them. Yeah. Like I end up doing nothing. It's like I should I got a stack of dishes in the sink, and I'm also like, well, like I need to do the dishes, but I also want to play a game, and then I ended up taking a nap instead. And I hate naps. Can I talk about naps for a second?
I mean, if you want to.
I don't like napping. It's really weird. I understand a lot of people enjoy their naps. Like Skylar loves naps.
I'm always so disoriented after a nap.
I end up being more exhausted, incredibly uncomfortable. You're
always so warm.
Yeah, I get way too warm, and it's probably because like when you nap like in your clothes or something like that. So like I hate sleeping in my clothes. But yeah, like I don't know what it is, but naps always make me feel terrible. Sure. And like most of the time, if I actually end up falling asleep for a nap, like it's like 3 hours.
Yeah.
It's like, that's way too long for a nap.
Yeah, and then you're like, I could have gotten so much done in those 3 hours.
Exactly.
I wouldn't have, but I could have.
But I could have.
Yeah. I just had this today, in fact, because we're recording this a couple days before Christmas, and I know that I have to work tomorrow, and then I have a big family thing the day after. So tomorrow I'm not really going to have much time to get ready for the big family thing. So I was like, well, I have to make some cheesecakes. I have to make 2 cheesecakes today. I could have made one of them after I woke up, because I woke up kind of late today. I told you what time to come by to record. I was like, okay, if I wanted to, I could go and make one of the cheesecakes now, because it takes a couple hours, and then make another one later. But I didn't do that. Instead, I stressed out over the fact that I wasn't doing that, and then I just spent an hour and a half playing Super Hot.
There you go.
So yeah, I mean, I do this with all sorts of stuff, not just D&D.
Yeah.
I don't know how common it is in other DMs, because I mean, nobody's really complained to me about it.
Sure.
But I do this pretty often. When I have to prepare for a session, I end up not preparing and then stressing, and then I just sit there and stare at the wall, stressing over the fact that I didn't. Yeah. That I should be preparing. Yeah. But I'm not.
Yep. Yeah, but I have this issue in most things. So.
Yeah. So I would say pretty common, I guess. Question mark. I don't know.
Yeah. Next question comes from Jake on email. What do you guys do to inspire yourselves to make a campaign story interesting and fun? I feel
this is such a broad question.
And I feel like there's no specific thing I do to get inspired. Inspiration just kind of happens, because it'll be like just doing this podcast. We'll be talking about a thing, and then I'll come up with an idea that's like, oh my God, I need to make a character like that. Or let's make it. I want to make an adventure based on this one thing that came through on somebody submitted an item or something. Sure. And I'm like, oh my God, I want to run a campaign where this item is, plays a big part or something.
And like, I mean, I'm never thinking to myself, I could make this interesting and fun, but let's do this other thing instead. Like, making it interesting and fun is always my goal.
Right. Yeah.
But whether I succeed at that, I'm never going to know until it actually happens.
Right.
You know what I mean? Maybe if I spent years honing my craft, I could know for a fact, this is going to be interesting. This is going to be fun. But most of the time, until I actually play the game, I don't know if it's going to be fun. And then if it ends up not being fun, I have to quickly try and, adjust things on the fly to make up for that.
Right.
So I don't know. I mean, like you said, inspiration kind of comes from everywhere.
Yeah.
Doing this podcast gives me a lot of inspiration. Just the questions people ask, the discussion we get to. Yeah. Reading stuff is always, a way to inspire myself. Listening to podcasts, watching TV shows. I would say I get inspiration all the time. The hardest part is writing it down.
Sure, yeah.
If I don't write it down, it is gone forever.
Yeah.
I always tell myself, I'll remember it later. No, I will not remember it later.
Like, even stuff that, like, it was, like, exciting enough to where I remember it, like, it's still going to be so long before I ever use it that I will eventually forget it. Like, I might remember it for a month straight, and then it'll fade away.
Sure.
So, yeah, it's about acting on it or at least writing it down.
Sure.
But yeah, inspiration kind of comes from everywhere. I feel like if I had to be like, oh, I need to find inspiration right now, like, just like, I would just wait until we record the podcast, because usually something while we're recording comes up. I'm like, oh, that's a good idea,
Yeah.
So
a Warforged that came from the future to prevent the invention of Warforged. All right.
I'm into it. And our next question comes from Peter K on email. Do you have any special routines that you do to warm up for a session, such as playing a short board game with the group or listening to music in the car to get into character?
Yeah, I don't really. I mean, there have been times where I have done those things. Like, sometimes I have if people get there early or whatever, sometimes, try to play a short board game or something. But I mean, most of the board games I own are very long board games. So
sure, yeah.
Sometimes that ends up just being, the whole session is us playing the Bloodborne card game or whatever.
That's why Skylar really likes the card game that we have. We didn't play test this.
Yeah,
that's the name of the game is We Didn't Play Test This, and like, it's it's a pretty basic card game, but like it's supposed to be like it can end at any moment.
Sure.
Like you only draw 2 cards at the beginning, and you play one card, draw one, play one, and it usually ends up like done before everybody even gets a turn. Like it's so quick and short, and it kind of gets you used to like, it gets you used to losing basically, and like because it's one of those where like there's very simple rules, but every card plays with those rules.
Yeah.
So it's like the card is the rule. So when you play that card, so it's a new thing. And like a lot of people be like, they play this card and like, okay, you can't see you or your anymore. And so everyone,
you lose.
Yeah. If you do, you lose. And so everyone's like, crap, how do I talk again? Like, try speaking, knowing that if you say a specific thing, like you lose, or you have to, or something bad happens, like you're like, I don't know. How do I talk?
Now, I do like the idea of establishing some sort of a warm-up game before the session, just to get everybody in the gameplay mood. I know that generally speaking, whenever I play a game of D&D, it's like everybody's there and then we just kind of start.
Yeah.
So I mean, I like the idea of that, but I've never actually done it, and I don't.
Yeah.
I would have to take some time to actually think about what sort of stuff I would do if I did start doing that.
Right. Yeah, a good warm-up game would be good. And like, yeah, if you wanted to take the extra time, you'd want it to be nice and short, but you can have it like even themed to what the adventure is going to be like or something.
Maybe. If there were a game that you could somehow play the game in character, like react or act the way that your character would.
Yeah.
But I don't know what kind of a game would bring that out.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because like, I mean, let's say you play a game of checkers or something. How do you play checkers as your character?
In character, right? Well, if you like, you're like the thief, you cheat or something.
I guess. I liked how the game Three Dragon Ante, which was a Wizards of the Coast produced card game a bunch of years back, there were little bonus rules that you could do depending on what class your character was. You could get certain benefits, and one of them for the rogue was every time you like take a coin out of the pile, you take 2 coins.
Yeah,
because your character is stealing coins.
What for getting into characters, like if I'm going to be playing a character that it has like I'm using like a voice for, I might do warm-ups in the car or something.
Sure.
Like if I'm on the way driving to the session, I might like play around with my voice a bit just to get comfortable with it. Cause like, I find using a voice helps me get into character more.
Sure.
So, but I can't always find a good voice for the character I'm playing. But...
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah. So I mean, I think those are, of all of our questions that we have in our bank, those are the ones that we've either been hanging on to for a while, or we just don't have great answers for.
Sure.
The Metaverse one, like I said, we haven't had that long, but I don't see myself having a good answer for it anytime in the future. So anyway, got those ones out of the way, but we do still have our social media discussion questions for this week. The last question we had was, if you could play through an RPG based on the book of your choice, what would it be? And we actually got quite a few responses to this. Most of them are pretty short, so I think we will probably read through all of them.
Okay.
So over on Facebook, JT says Mistborn series. And then Alexander P apparently replied saying there actually is a Mistborn RPG.
Oh.
So it's on Drive-Thru RPG, I guess. Bridget P says Lord of the Rings hands down, including The Hobbit.
Okay.
Craig H says Superpowereds. I absolutely love that series, and yes, I spelt that correctly. So Superpowereds, like with an S on the end. Andrew H says The Belgariad by David Eddings. I think I have 1 or 2 of those books. I've never read them, though. Dean A says Rainbow Six. Actually, I did this in 4th edition once. Still use 5e because it's fun, but if I could do a modern Earth with guns and drones, it would be interesting too.
Okay. Yeah, I like that. And with the tactical mechanics of 4th edition, that would work out pretty good.
I love 4th edition for stuff like that. Lath T says, oh, definitely the Inheritance books. That is the Aragon. So the Aragon series, but I guess Aragon is just the name of one of them.
Right, yeah. That's like Game of Thrones, but it's the Song of Ice and Fire. Anyway.
Sure. Yeah. Justin H says Stormlight Archives hands down. It's epic. Steve S says Wheel of Time by Robert Jordan. Sean M says clear and present danger, part intrigue, part action. Dan W says the Discworld universe. Fantasy with that Terry Pratchett sense of humor and imagination. It would be beautiful and hilarious. There's a point and click games of old, but a full RPG would be the absolute best.
Yeah.
He used a different word instead of best. I censored that.
Yeah. Discworld would be pretty good. Although those point and click games are ridiculous. Like, as far
ridiculous, good or bad?
Well, in the way that point and click games where it's just very like, how was I supposed to know to do that?
Yeah. Is it like, oh, you didn't click on this brick 5 hours ago? Well, your game is ruined now.
Well, it's more of like you have these like 5 items and you have to like get you have to get this other thing, and it's
use
like
fish on envelope, of course.
Basically, it's like I think it's like use octopus on pants or something like that. It's ridiculous. It's like, how was I supposed to know? Like, you basically just have to sit there and use every combination of every item in every scene on every like object in the scene to be able to get it. Like, it's like, what in what world? Discworld, apparently.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. Sean M says again, or the Myst/Riven books, and I mean the ones from within their respective games. So I'm not very familiar with Myst or Riven. I know what they are.
Yeah, that the Myst game, like I didn't play it. I watched my uncle play it, and it was very intriguing. And like I could definitely see there'd be some really cool stuff with a Myst game.
Sure.
I really don't know that much about it. I just know there's a bunch of puzzles that went way over my head when I was a kid.
Yeah. Lisa G says no. It's my wife, everybody.
Right.
Hal A says, not a book, but I've always thought an RPG set in Norath from the EverQuest MMORPG would be great. And one of the things that I was most excited about when I first got into D&D was I was at Pandemonium, actually, the store we mentioned earlier. They had, back in 3rd edition, they had an EverQuest campaign setting book for 3rd edition D&D.
Oh, nice.
When the open gaming license, the company made EverQuest, they made a D&D book based on that.
Nice.
I never played it,
right?
But it's so cool that it existed.
Yeah.
So that was Facebook. Over on Reddit, we only got one. Wes Michael says Neverwinter by Neil Gaiman. It's got a variety of fantasy elements, but its own quirks for magic and power, all on the fringe of our known world.
Neil Gaiman's pretty great.
And also, I am a huge fan of Neverwinter. Neverwinter is great. It actually started as a TV miniseries, and then Neil Gaiman, he wrote the TV miniseries, but then he also decided to adapt it into a book. The premise is this guy gets sort of caught up in this like supernatural fantasy world that exists entirely in the London underground. So like, if you've ever been to London, I think we have some listeners, I'm pretty sure we have at least a few listeners that live in or around the UK. If you've ever been to London, the London underground is this maze of tunnels and subway platforms and such, and they're all like named after districts of the city or something like that. And to someone who isn't from London, they all sound so evocative. And so what Neil Gaiman did was he kind of looked at a map of the underground and he was like, what if this was a fantasy world that was existing nowadays?
Yeah.
And so this normal guy sort of gets caught up in all of this, and once he starts doing so, there's a girl like stumbles out of a door and she's like wounded, and he like takes her and nurses her back to health. And then and she's from this other world. Once he sort of gets his foot in the door, so to speak, which is kind of ironic because the girl's name is Door. Once he gets a little bit involved, people from the normal world stop noticing him. They start to be unable to see or recognize him. And so he kind of can no longer be a part of the normal world. Now he has to be a part of this world he knows nothing about. And it's really, really cool. So it was a TV miniseries. The TV miniseries, in my opinion, doesn't hold up super well because it's like old. It was like on VHS, I think, and like the video quality is not great, and it's very stylized and not super high budget go ahead and watch it if you want to. I think you'll probably have a fun time watching it. But the book, in my opinion, is amazing.
Sure.
I would love to play in a Neverwhere game because I love modern fantasy, and it's very much modern fantasy with like just weird thrown in there.
Yeah.
And then Wes Michael also said the Shannara series is great fun, but seems pretty similar to traditional D&D.
Okay.
So those are what he said. Over on Twitter, we got a few. That's Carl with a K says either the Master and Commander Naval Battles series or the Last Kingdom, Vikings, Shield Walls, and Taking Fortresses series. Historical fiction is my favorite genre. There you go. The DM's Council says, I would like the Wheel of Time or Inheritance Aragon series. Jason S. says the Iron Druid series or the Dark Tower series.
Okay.
Hellforge Props says any Terry Pratchett book.
Yeah.
That's Sketchy says anything in the Shadowhunters Chronicles universe. My second would be the Incarnations of Immortality. Certain parts of the world would be great to explore in, but I'm not sure the plot or plots would translate well to a game. I'm not familiar with those, so I can't comment. Scott M says the Draenei Saga by David Gemmell. And over on Discord, we got a few. Peastroy Pancakes says Aragon, obviously. Next question. Floofy Shoob says For Love of Evil, Piers Anthony's Incarnations of Immortality series. That's another one from that. Damien the DM says either the Sword of Truth or the Eli Monpress saga. John Gemstone says, Aragon was already claimed, so I'll choose a new one. I would love to play in a world of the Reckoners book series. It's just a dystopian Earth in a near future where some people gained powers. Kind of cool. Sounds interesting. The Beverage Tea says, not really a book, and I am aware of Gabe's feelings on Shakespeare. But Romeo and Juliet. It is a fantastic setting with Waterdeep-like rules against violence, but serious altercations take place, and there is tons of chance for political intrigue and crypt looting, and amazing NPCs. And the Beverage Tea is correct in that Shakespeare's awful. Jason E. says, the Tortall books by Tamora Pierce. I love the way magic and the gods work in those books. Deborah Soar says, I think the world of the Mortal Instruments series by Cassandra Clare screams for an RPG to be made in it. And Thoin Frostax says, I know we have Mouse Guard, but an official Redwall supplement for Mouse Guard would make me so happy. And I'm not just saying that so I could weave my 2 ferrets in as NPCs, though I totally would. I guarantee you, if I played a Redwall book, every single pet that I have ever had would be an important NPC in that story.
Absolutely.
Dustin F. says, Into the Darkness by Harry Turtledove. It is World War II in a magical format. Planes equals dragons. Tanks equals behemoths. Guns equals magical staves. Supply lines equals ley lines. It's amazing and lends itself very well to roleplay. Sounds interesting. And then E. Thompson says, Dragonlance. Rich fantasy world with a fun deity dynamic. And Dragonlance was a pen and paper game. Like, I think the books were an adaptation of an actual campaign that happened. Yeah. But that was I think E. Thompson goes on to say that was a long time ago, and they never got a chance to play it.
Right.
So yeah, lots of really good examples in there.
Just one that came up in my head is what's the name of the series? His Dark Materials?
Oh my goodness, yes. The Golden Compass, the Subtle Knife, and the Amber Spyglass.
Yeah. I mean,
I think it just got, was it Netflix adaptation?
I think it's else? HBO.
HBO.
Okay. Yeah, I want to say, I'm pretty sure it's HBO because I remember like seeing they put a little ad for it, a little teaser for it at the end of the last episode of Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, there's no reason for me to have HBO anymore. And they were like, His Dark Materials. And I'm like, oh, you jerks.
I really hope it's good because the books are amazing.
The movie that came out how long ago, I liked it a lot.
Yeah. I liked it. There were a couple story beats that I thought it really dropped the ball on.
Sure.
But I wanted more.
I absolutely wanted more. I was like, okay, yeah, I want more, please.
For that one, apparently they filmed, there is a scene, so the book ends at a different point than that movie ends. The movie ends early. There was a scene at the very end of the book that's like a really, really big scene that they shot for the movie, but apparently they decided to not put it in the finished product and instead have it be the opening scene of the sequel, which unfortunately never got made.
So,
yeah. Anyway, but seriously, that is a great great series of books. His Dark Materials is the name of the series. The Golden Compass or the Northern Lights, depending on what country you live in.
Sure.
Because it was a British book, and then when they brought it to America, they're like, no kid's going to read a book called the Northern Lights. So they called it the Golden Compass.
Sure.
The Subtle Knife and the Amber Spyglass. For a long time, I've actually been meaning to make a magic item out of the Subtle Knife. Because I thought it was a very interesting plot device.
Yeah.
So.
It's a knife that when you stab a person with it, it adds a silent B into their name. Subtle.
Jabef. That's not silent. No. Well, so I mean, I'll just say in the book, the Subtle Knife is a knife so sharp it can cut through literally anything, including dimensions.
Just so you just don't want it to ever move because it'll cut through.
Well, I mean, you kind of have to use it a certain way, but you can cut a portal from one world to the next world.
Ooh. And
sort of the bit. I mean, I kind of a spoiler, but it's not going to make any sense unless you've read the books. Kind of the overarching, one of the overarching plots of the trilogy is that this knife and other things like it have been cutting holes between dimensions for so long that bad things, like it's starting to have ramifications of things coming through that aren't supposed to be coming through. And so anyway, great series.
Yeah.
Go read those books, everybody. That is your assignment for this year. So anyway, that was the social media question from last time. The next social media question is, what are your gaming hopes for the upcoming year? So this episode should be coming out at the very, very end of 2019.
Yeah.
Depending on how you look at it, the end of the decade or not.
Right.
So Jeff, what are your gaming hopes for the upcoming year?
Oh, I don't know.
Okay. I mean, if you don't have anything, you can come up with something for next time.
Because like part of me is like, I'm expecting to hear something about maybe them working on like a 6th edition or something like that. Because I don't know, like I always forget like the number of years that there are typically between each edition.
It always gets shorter and shorter.
Yeah, and that seems to be the case with like just a lot of things like sequels to movies and games and things like that. It's getting shorter and shorter because it's, you know,
want to make that money.
Right. It's a service now. It's not a, you know, like they gotta pump it out on a regular basis so they can keep. They want you to subscribe, you know,
sure.
Smash that like button. You know, that's the way you get revenue now. I'm shifting this to like video games. Like I am looking, there are a few video games I'm looking forward to. I mean, like the Baldur's Gate 3.
Yeah.
Like,
oh yeah. That just got announced not too long ago.
Yeah. And I'm like, I got pretty high hopes for that because I thought Divinity, Original Sin 2 was really solid, at least mechanics wise. I haven't gotten through all the story, but mechanics wise, I loved it. And like, if like using that as like a Baldur's Gate game, I can see myself pouring a lot of hours into it. So we'll see how that goes.
Cool. I would say my hopes are to read more, gaming stuff and non-gaming stuff, but I haven't really read much in the last year. I want to read more, and I want to play D&D, I guess. I mean, because I haven't really played much. We did our actual play thing last January that I might try and at least get those episodes out in the next few weeks.
Okay.
Or something.
Just,
or at least get them edited.
Sure.
Because I've been sitting on it for so long. So we did that. I've done our Patreon games and I've done our library games, but like those are still pretty short term.
Yeah. It
would be great to be in a weekly game or or bi-weekly game or something, but I just don't really have time.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. We gotta try to figure something out because I do want to get on a regular session.
Yeah.
So
get some sort of regularity in regards to playing D&D.
Yeah, that sounds good.
All right. Well, that'll do it for our questions for this week, for our last episode of the year. So before we go on, let's take a deep breath. Good. Let's reflect on the last 50 episodes of 2019.
Yeah.
And maybe the emails that have been sent to us and then forgot about.
Yeah.
Which I'll get to in a second.
Stories that have been
submitted and then I didn't use for a long time. So anyway, as we toss another log onto the funeral pyre. So, confession time. I don't know who submitted this story or even where they submitted it.
Right.
I got this story a long time ago, possibly even in 2018. I'm not sure. I got this story a long time ago. I think it was submitted on Reddit. I'm not 100% sure because for whatever reason, I copied and pasted it into an email so that I could keep it because I have like an email folder of like stuff people have submitted.
Right, yeah.
And I didn't put the name in the email. I just have the story. So, and I don't know where it came from or who submitted it.
Okay.
So if you're out there, if you hear this.
If you recognize the story.
Sorry.
Yeah, and let us know.
Yes, and let us know. And I've been hanging on to this for so long, not only because I don't know who submitted it, but also because it's kind of long and I had planned on trimming it down and I never did. Yeah. So anyway, what better time than today? So the story begins, and it's even the best part. This begins with, this isn't my character, but I was at the table when this occurred and got permission to share this. So,
but who are you?
Who are you, exactly? Who are either of you? This is the tale of Strong, the dwarf barbarian, and some rather horrible business negotiations.
Uh-oh.
We're playing Rise of Tiamat, and we're nearly done. One of the side goals of one of the party members, and now most of the party, is to eventually start an interplanar bar at some point called Frosty Brews. During our adventures, we slew an adult blue dragon. When my character, a wood elf bladesinger wizard named Bahab, when I couldn't come up with a name and someone suggested Bob, I just elfified it a bit, learned the teleport spell, we were able to teleport to the dragon's hoard. Whereupon we met the dragons.
What? It's just that easy. I should just be using teleport.
Whereupon we met the dragon's major domo, who managed his and his mate's estate. The mate was asleep, likely for the next few decades, thankfully, and it turned out he and his mate owned a business, a winery, which was also a front for a smuggling operation. But we were more excited about producing our own stock for our interplanar bar. We successfully laid claim to 51% of the company, which we split among the party and made plans to come back later and engage in a hostile takeover with some aggressive negotiations. Negotiations with swords and fireballs and such, as you do, to obtain the rest of the company and the hoard. Shenanigans occurred, and the dragon's mate, whose name was Quinala, got a share back from one of the party members. Never trust a drow. So we engage our hostile takeover plans early. We teleport back, and Quinala is awake. She is also not an adult blue dragon. She is an ancient blue dragon, and our main healer was gone that session, dropping off plot-important stuff. Quinala doesn't start attacking us right away and actually is pretty interested in running a successful business with us. However, Strong the dwarf has the idea to convince Quinala that he killed 3 or 4 of us through a fake fight that would go off down a hallway, whereupon we could surprise the dragon and attempt our hostile takeover. The rest of the party wanted to take a little bit to reevaluate the situation. So, InterPartyConflict occurs, and I attempt to teleport us out of there so we can talk away from a dragon that may or may not eat us. The barbarian stayed, as well as the bard. The bard convinces Quinala that Strong, the barbarian, should be punished for being a backstabber and wouldn't be a very good business partner. So after granting Strong's personal effects to the bard, Quinala ate him.
Oh no.
It was a really bad session for forward progression, especially considering the dwarf druid burnt down a bar for giving him watered-down beer and accidentally killed some guards in his escape, but a rather hilarious and entertaining one. Strong's okay. We came back later and convinced Quinala to cough up his body so the cleric could resurrect him. But it was the first character death I was ever at the table for, and a rather humorous one at that.
Yeah.
I know this is rather long, so if you use this on the show, feel free to shorten it how you see fit. No!
No, we will instead keep it in our email for a year.
Too long. At least a year, I imagine.
At least a year.
So So let's raise a glass in memory of Strong the Barbarian, who reminds us that you should always eat bad business partners with farver beans and a nice Chianti. Clink. So yeah, that's a year in review.
A year in review. Yep.
All right. Well, that'll do it for 2019. To submit questions for us to discuss, items for the Dragon's Hoard, or stories for the Funeral Pyre, please email us at interpartyconflict@gmail.com. For show notes, links to media mentioned on the show, and running lists of questions and magic items, go to interpartyconflict.com. Join the discussion on social media. Find us on Facebook, facebook.com/interpartyconflict, on Reddit at r/interpartyconflict, on our Interparty Discord, or on Twitter at InPartyConflict for our weekly social media questions. Your answers might end up on the show. Find us on iTunes, Google Play Music, Stitcher, YouTube, anywhere you download podcasts. Please rate, review, subscribe, or just tell a friend. If you'd like to support the show, check out the rewards at patreon.com/interpartyconflict. There's a few different tiers, so anything you can spare, even $1 a month, would go towards making the show better, and you'll get bonus content for it. Jeff, tell us about FriendQuest.
FriendQuest is our YouTube channel where we play video games.
Yes, speaking of video games, check out my side project, the Arcade Memories Podcast. If you'd like to submit your own childhood memories of going to the arcade, record them or write them to me at arcadememoriespodcast@gmail.com. Also, head over to bit.ly/interpartyconflict to take a short survey about our show. What you like, what you don't like, etc. And just for taking it, you'll get 2 free printable board games courtesy of Mary and Tom over at hollandspiel.com. And our music is made by Boxcat Games from Nameless the Hacker's RPG. So, Jeff, until next time,
see you next decade.